And okay. Okay, perfect. So what are your guys' wins for the week? Any wins for the week? No wins for the week? Like seriously, you guys have not done anything this week? It doesn't have to be work related.
All right, my win is joining eXp. We'll just say that. I'm getting the onboarding going. So that's my win. Thanks to Elle. She's been fantastic. So.
Oh, Natalie, welcome. Is this your first Powerhouse meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, well, welcome, welcome. This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
So awesome. Any other wins? Anyone get anyone else under contract, get a closing, a listing appointment? Let's hear your win.
I'll go. I have 3 closings tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, Anne, where are you? I can't see. There's too many people.
I'm in the car, so I don't know how to put my face on the screen, so it's probably not on there. But I have 3 closings tomorrow, and one is a personal closing. It's actually our first rental property that we ever purchased, and put a tenant in, and we're selling it tomorrow, closing to 1031 that into another short-term rental. It was a long-term rental.
Anna, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's a big deal. There is a reason we always start with our wins inside of Powerhouse, because as entrepreneurs, we oftentimes, like, once you, I can see some of my like elite agents right next to me, and I can guarantee you they close one deal and then they're like, okay, on to the next. They hit one milestone, they're like, great, now I got to go chase the next one, right? And we want to sit in that space of like recognizing like, oh, okay, I did that cool thing, and like allow yourself to feel like the feeling on it, because otherwise you're going to run into burnout. Today, I am super excited for this meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about the power of eXp. And I'm going to share, I'm getting ready to take a month off tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of how I've built my business in order to take a month off. This is not for everyone. Like, spoiler alert, just because I'm taking a month off doesn't mean you need to take a month off, or that doesn't need to be your idea of success. One of the things we talk a lot about inside of Powerhouse is identifying like, well, what does success look like for you? And then use that measuring stick and not anyone else's, right? There's a lot of ways to build a successful business in real estate. This is just a story of mine. And I'm going to highlight how eXp was the vehicle that got me there. Again, eXp is not the brokerage for everyone. There is not a perfect brokerage. Spoiler. If you're looking for the perfect brokerage, I don't know that you're ever going to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump into my presentation, and I will leave some time at the end for Q&A. Let me get this presenting. And I've got to get all my chat windows set up, so as I'm presenting, I can still see inside the chat box. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the power of eXp. This is something we're going to be doing every single month inside of our eXp meetings. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and make you host again so you can let people in. Okay, there we go. Oh, now you're going to have to allow me to share my screen. Ha! Fun fact, there's always a technical.
Okay, I'll do that now.
This happens without fail.
Okay, you should be good.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me present again. Okay, so talking through the power of eXp, I'm going to share some personal things, so I hope you'll kind of bear with me as I go through this. And this is just kind of a look of before and after how eXp has really allowed me to change my business. First, you got to go back to like where it began and understand the evolution of things. I think one of the hazards of social media is that we just see everyone's victory laps. And sometimes you don't know the backstory of how they got there. And so what happens is you begin using an unfair measuring stick against yourself. And this is where you run into frustration and burnout and frustration and burnout and frustration and burnout. So I have been licensed for 15 years. I did not pursue real estate until just like the last 5 years. I worked for a home builder before I had my oldest son. He's 15 now. And that's where I got my license. Those 10 years between him being born and me going back to real estate, though, were really crucial in where I got to where I am now. I learned how to build websites. I had a blog. I did graphic design. I did wedding announcements, baby announcements. I had an online storefront where I designed and sold graphic tees, and I worked with fashion bloggers. Like, there's all these other pieces that happened before real estate that allowed real estate to be a quote unquote overnight success, right? And everyone has that in their story somewhere. Like, you've always been prepared for where you're at. Like, whatever happened before now is what got you to now. That prepared you for right now. But this is what the numbers are. My first year in real estate, I literally shut down a successful online storefront to go back and pursue real estate. With the idea that I was going to use social media and I was going to bring in clients like fashion bloggers. I thought fashion bloggers and real estate agents have the same business model. We both sell someone else's inventory for a small percentage. I worked about 10 hours a week. I had a kid in preschool, and I was pregnant my first year. So this is kind of my first year. I did 6 figures, 10 hours a week. The second year I was in real estate, I had a newborn baby. That was my hardest year. Like, by far, it was really hard. And I don't think anyone ever tells you that. You were like, yeah, this is this cool thing I did. It was brutal. That year, I will say it again, it was brutal. In 2019 is when I moved to eXp Realty. I launched an online course, a national team, maintained transactions, and my profits increased 67%. When I say a national team, I saw the idea with social media, which was already my skill set, right? Social media was already what I was bringing to the table when I began to pursue real estate. And I saw the opportunity with eXp, and I thought, oh, those two things pair very nicely together. I was at a brokerage that I really loved. And they are big players in the real estate industry. They don't need to be working anymore. They founded Invitation Homes. They've taken that company public. They've rang the bell on Wall Street, blah, 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 blah. And I had a seat at their table. But still, I saw the opportunity at eXp for an agent like me. And so I moved my license over. In 2020 is when I launched Powerhouse. You'll see in 2019, I hadn't really named my national team. I didn't really know what it was going to be. It started out as the Gregory Group, and then I changed it to Powerhouse. Again, these are the things people don't tell you. Like, I did it wrong the first time. Okay, so I changed it. Like, that's what's going to happen in your business. So 2020 is when I launched Powerhouse. I hosted my first Rise retreat in October of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And again, I just maintained my transactions that year. Raise your hand if 2020 was a crazy year. Okay, so I just maintained my transactions. Again, I don't want to paint a picture that's unrealistic. But launching Powerhouse and Rise Retreat and my online course increased my profits 2x. Okay, but again, maintain transactions, maintain transactions, maintain transactions. In 2021, I grew Powerhouse to 100 plus agents. Here is when I doubled my transactions, because by this point, my baby's 3. Okay, it changes, like your season changes. So I doubled transactions, I doubled retreats, and I launched mini masterminds. And again, increased my profits 2x. That's where I began. But where did I want to go? Way back over here in 2017, 2018, I had this gym habit, and I would go to the gym and I would work out, and then I would go sit in the sauna. And in the sauna, I would just daydream of like, okay, this thing clearly holds a lot of potential. If I'm able to bring in 6 figures in 10 hours a week, what could I do in 40 hours a week? Why? Like, the math on it just kept spitting in my numbers of like, okay, there's something here, there's something here. And then I identified it. I spent a lot of time identifying where I wanted to go. The goal for me was time freedom. I wanted the ability to work at any time. Do not mistake this for working all of the time. I wanted the ability to work during nap time. I wanted the ability to get my work done early in the morning or late at night. Like, I wanted it to fit into the pockets of my day. I also wanted location freedom. the ability to work from anywhere. I wanted to be able, this was before 2020 happened, by the way. I wanted to be able to work from other places. And then I wanted financial freedom. And this would come as like when you shift from being a business operator to a business owner. An operator is the person doing all of the work. The owner is the person making the decisions. And there's a difference there, right? And so I was trying to unlock these three things. And this, you have to figure out your why. When your why is powerful enough, the how becomes simple. And I'll get emotional telling you about it. I would sit in that sauna and I would think about my kids. At the time, my oldest was 12. And I would sit in that sauna and I would think, gosh, there's going to come a day where I just want to be able to pick them up and I want to take them out of our environment and I want to like slow down life and just see them in their eyes and not be distracted by my phone, not have a client call me, not have a showing. Just, I want to like slow down life and just like be the mom. And I wasn't sure what this looked like. And I actually imagined a bunch of different locations. I imagined it on the beach. That never like quite felt just right. I imagined it here locally in some places 2 hours away from where I live. I imagined it at my own house. I imagined it a couple of different places. And there wasn't anything that my mind could like grasp onto and really paint really fully until I landed on like my own childhood. And my own childhood, I grew up going to Bear Lake up in Utah. My grandparents had a cabin up there. And by cabin, I mean, it was like the shantiest of cabins you could possibly imagine. But I remember sleeping up in the bunkhouse with all of my cousins with the windows open because it didn't have air conditioning and being woken up by the sound of the trees. And we would ride our bikes to the candy shop and we'd have our penny candy and we'd buy candy and then everyone knew us. And we would, it was just so small town. We'd go to the rodeos and I mean, we were riding dirt bikes and I thought that's what I want for my kids. I want that like moment, but I wanted a really extended version from what I had because it's far away from where I live. So this is Bear Lake. This is my why. This was my daydream. I pictured this in my mind for hours, day after day. Like it would just add up. I probably sat and thought about it in that sauna for 10 minutes. I would close my eyes and I would see myself like in Bear Lake. We didn't own any land in Bear Lake. I come from a large family. My mom has 5 sisters, and a lot of my mom's sisters still had places at Bear Lake. So I could kind of put myself in that arena. My parents were looking to build a second home, but Bear Lake was not on the table. They looked for 3 years, and then they ended up buying land up in Bear Lake. They ended up buying some land up in Bear Lake. And I thought, oh my gosh, that just made my daydream way more fluid. Like all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, this is really cool. And they had looked at Bear Lake early on in their search and they had kind of ruled it out because it's a 15-hour drive from where we're at. It's not easy to get to from where we are at. But again, it holds a lot of sentimental value for us. So this was my daydream. And I would see my family up at Bear Lake all the time. And the building process for my parents was astronomically difficult. It happened in 2020 was when it was finished. So you can imagine like the building process was a nightmare. But 2020 was the first summer that we spent a week up in Bear Lake. And then 2021 was the first summer we took a whole month up there. And 2020 was actually crucial to this happening for my family because it allowed my husband to work remotely. So there were all these things that were happening. Like I started thinking about this in 2018 was when I started like, okay, I want to build something that allows me to be up here for a month. And financially, that means money has to be like, I don't know about you, but we need money coming into the bank account. I can't just stop working for a month, right? So I sat and thought about that. And then I got to work. First, I would talk about my daydream. Then I took opportunities that would get me closer to my daydream. And then finally I created my daydream. And I call this process talkers, takers, creators. And it starts with talking. And then you got to start taking opportunities. You have to start making the moves to get you closer. And then you will begin to create that daydream. So what were the key decisions in this process? One of the key decisions, I started thinking about this in 2018. This idea, actually, if I'm being honest, this idea of Bear Lake started when my oldest son was like 4 years old. We would go up there every summer and I would come home and I'd tell my husband, we need to buy a cabin. I want to be up there. Anyways, so it started, I've always had this pull. And I don't know what it is, but I've always had this pull. One of the key decisions was switching to eXp Realty. It unlocked residual income for me. It allowed me to social media and agent growth and collaboration and all of these things. It just unlocked so much inside my business. As a female solo agent, one of my biggest pain points was loneliness. I didn't have anyone to say, well, how are you building your business? What are you doing inside your business? How are you doing this? Like there was just no one that was building like I was building until I came across GoGo, which is why GoGo is my sponsor at eXp. She was the only other agent I saw using social media in a similar fashion. So when she switched to eXp, I was like, okay, why are you doing that? And I took a deep dive and I went down this rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, there's all these possibilities here. And there's so many ways I can manipulate this model to work really well for me. And so I think whatever brokerage you're at, you've got to understand what your brokerage is and how it works, how it pays you, and what the opportunity for you is there. And how can you manipulate whatever systems or whatever opportunities they're rolling out for you? How can you manipulate them to create like residual income or to create a team or something of some sort to help unlock that location, time, financial freedom, if that's what you want, if that's what your goal is. So I switched to eXp Realty. I always had this idea that I was going to build a collaborative group. All of a sudden, when I was using Instagram, I had agents reaching out and asking me like, oh, will you come and teach us how to do Instagram inside our business? And so I knew that was something people wanted. I just needed to figure out a way to deliver it in a way that made sense for me and in a way that made sense for agents, right? So you'll know I had an online course first, right? And my original broker was like, I don't even get what you're doing. Mind you, this is a person that's like literally bought more houses than anyone else in the entire United States of America. Not joking. And I said, well, no, I'm going to have this online course and then I can like scale my business this way so that I can keep doing transactions. But if I want to take a month off of doing transactions, I'll have this other thing that's bringing in money. And he's like, okay, cool, do it. And then the same thing happened when I saw eXp. I thought, oh my gosh, that's another cool way I can like work with agents and teach them transactions and build this. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't totally know. That's one of the other things is like, I did not know all of the things when I started, but I knew eXp Realty was a crucial part of that. And then, so that was key decision number one. Key decision number two was like branding and marketing my group Powerhouse and finding my niche. And I got a lot of pushback on this. I got a lot of people saying, oh, that's never going to work. That's never going to work. You need to look at these numbers. That's not going to work. And I knew that like a female solo agent needed community more than she needed anything else. And with eXp being national, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Mesa, but I can learn from an agent that's in Miami or San Antonio or San Diego. And like, how cool would it be to brain share, right? Again, this is all before 2020, but then 2020 happened and it was like, oh no, for sure, this is what we're doing. And so originally I called my group Gregory Group, and then I didn't like that. So again, there's mistakes along the way. And so I named it Powerhouse. And that actually goes back, the thought of Powerhouse is that I believe in family and I believe in home. And I believe that the women are the power center of their home. They are the powerhouse. And if you impact a woman's ability to make more money and build a business, it will have generational effects on her family. Because she will naturally teach her children and her children will unlock all of her, like they will have all of her wisdom in order to build what they want to build. And that was something I learned. Going back, I held off pursuing real estate for a long time. I was nervous of it. If you know me well, you know that I am like really concerned with like not missing my motherhood. And I didn't want real estate to get in the way of my motherhood. And one of the key things I've learned is that real estate, me pursuing real estate, me building a business like bigger than I could ever imagine, has been the greatest asset to my family. Because I am my family's greatest asset. I'm the mom. I'm the one that creates home. I am the one that like does most of the nurturing inside of my family. Now my husband flies cover for me so I can go about doing my work. He's very protective of my time, my space, and like me being where I want to be, because that is my greatest work. And as I invest heavy in myself, that I become a greater asset to my family. I'm a different mom around the kitchen table. My kids have access to everything I've learned and everything I've built, and it will have generational effects on my family. So Powerhouse is my national team. And eXp is the only brokerage that will allow me to build a national team like Powerhouse. Not only has it's impacted my business on several levels. The next key decision was Rise Retreat. I launched Rise Retreat. My first Rise Retreat was literally in October of 2020. Again, goes against all conventional wisdom. In fact, all three of these go against what mainstream like reason would tell you. There was literally no reason for me to leave my brokerage where I was at. None. But eXp made more sense. There was no reason for me to focus in on that female solo agent, except that it made all kinds of sense. And now 3 years in, the numbers show that the female solo agent outperforms every other demographic inside real estate, which you know in your gut is also true. Rise Retreat, again, went against all conventional wisdom to hold a retreat in October of 2020. But I knew people were craving in-person connection. 2020 was the year I launched these little mastermind groups, these virtual mastermind groups with female agents across the country. And we just sat and talked about our businesses. And I thought, okay, I need to bring that into physical form. And now Rise Retreat is happening at huge hotels. And I'm like, I don't even know how that happened, except that now it's so cool because I've learned so much. I've had the privilege of sitting in all of these mastermind groups and seeing these women I call it like a sticky note business, but they've built multiple six-figure businesses based on sticky notes and gut decisions. And it's incredible. And now I'm like, more people need to learn from them, not from me. And so that's what Rise Retreat became. It's the stage for this female solo elevate agent to teach and train other agents, show their unique talents and benefits to others. Because as we share and share and share, everyone gets better. This was my 5-year plan when I moved over to eXp. I did not make any of these decisions lightly. None of these decisions happened overnight. None of these decisions happened without sleepless nights, without me crying in my closet. I think it's a misnomer to act like, oh yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't. The switch to eXp Realty, I ran a lot of numbers on, and I said, okay, if it doesn't work, then I can just always go back to my former brokerage. Powerhouse, this was like one of the first times I like hired a graphic designer and I like to brand it and do all this stuff. And that I'm like, is people even going to get this? But it worked. Rise Retreat, every time I launch a Rise Retreat, I know that I have to like overcome this resistance to it. And it will include me crying in my closet. Like, I just know that. That's just what's going to happen. And I've had panic attacks. I've had that's just the nature of growing. It's just the nature of growing. Right. And I think I don't want to like beat a dead horse on that, but I think it's so crucial that you know that it's taken a lot of effort and a lot of sleepless nights to do all of the things. But that is where the growth is where wherever your discomfort lies is where the growth is. And so learning to push through that discomfort is a key skill set. So before I moved to eXp, I had this 5-year plan, and it was focused on agent growth because I thought, oh, it's going to play really well with social media. I'll be able to like work with, I had agents here locally that were wanting to like join my team or be at my brokerage, or could I train them? And so I thought, oh, well, why can't I just do that at eXp and then do it nationally as opposed to just locally, right? It's almost like how I thought about it. I remember I owned an online storefront before I did real estate. I thought of eXp as like an online storefront and my local brokerage as like a brick and mortar storefront. So yeah, I could be here locally and I could have agents on my team locally. They wanted me to build out the brokerage and they were going to cut me into all the deals and all of that stuff. But I was always going to hit this ceiling of location, right? It was always going to be like, well, I can only go so far because location was always going to be an issue. The other problem with that model for me was, well, then I'm going to just train all of my competition. We're all going to be like fishing from the same pond. And I wasn't confident enough in myself at that time to feel comfortable doing that. You have to remember, this was like year 1 or 2 in real estate. And I felt very much like, I'm not telling everyone, but if you want me to tell the person in San Diego, great, I have no problem doing that. But here, maybe, right, I didn't feel totally comfortable. Now that I feel differently. But this was my 5-year plan focused on agent growth. eXp has this thing, rev share. And what I've learned about rev share is that it's the most important part of eXp because it's what changes agents' behavior. This part of rev share allows me to go from competing with agents to collaborating with agents because now we're like financially aligned. And one of the things I didn't know about eXp when I moved over there was like who your sponsor is actually really matters. And I got lucky on this. I'm not gonna lie, I got lucky on it. And I had this idea that I was gonna go in and I was gonna build something collaborative, not knowing that my sponsorship, like upline, was already doing collaborative things. Like I knew, oh, I'm gonna go and build this and this is gonna be like a brand new idea. It luckily was not a brand new idea. And so I was able to learn from them as like how they were building out their collaboration. So to like inform how I would build out my collaboration. Anyways, this was my goal for 5 years. I wanted to unlock up to level 6. That meant I needed 25 agents on my front line. At the time, very few people had unlocked this level 7. That was like really hard to do. And since I was like this little baby agent, just working part-time hours with my 4 kids, I thought, gosh, that would be amazing if I could unlock level 6. Okay, what would I, and I started asking myself questions. What would I need to do that? What would that unlock for me? Would that get me closer to, remember, like we go back to the goal. Would that get me closer to this? Would that allow me the time to do this? Whenever I was wanting to like do something, if it didn't get me closer to this, the answer was no. So now you know why I don't have a local team. Except that I kind of do. My goal for 5 years was to unlock level 6, which meant I needed 25 level 1 agents. And so I said, okay, I'll grow 5 agents every year for 5 years. I thought, well, that feels reasonable. Raise your hand if that feels like reasonable. Like, okay, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to grow at 5 agents every year. That's like saying you're going to do 5 transactions every year. Raise your hand if you're capable of doing 5 transactions. Okay, every hand should be up. Everyone's capable of doing 5 transactions in a year. And so I thought, oh, I'm capable of doing that. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I thought I could figure it out. I also didn't know how I was going to do transactions my first year either, but I figured that out. So I thought, okay, I'll figure that out. If I did 5 agents every year for 5 years, that would get me to this 25. Because I knew this would just take time to grow. And so I thought, well, if I do 25 agents and they would each bring in, eXp, because now what happens is you have to look at how agents actually like scale their businesses. Once agents max out on transactions, then they get into the agent business. And they get into the agent business by being a broker, by owning a title company, or by running a local team. They're all but then they are in the transaction business and the agent business. So you have to know that if you're going to, once you max out on transactions, like your own personal transactions, you have to know that then you have to get into the agent business. You can get into the agent business however you want. There's a couple of ways you can do it. This was just the way I chose to do it because it worked well with social media and it got me closer to that goal of getting to Bear Lake. When I did this number, 25 times 2,800, I thought, okay, that would bring in $70,000 annually. I was not excited about this number, if I'm being honest. I was like, well, that's a stupid number. I should just go do more transactions. And so then I thought, okay, well, let's say these 25 people, they end up bringing 3 agents over time. That, right, at this level, they could be up to 3,200. That would be 240,000. I like that number more. I was like, okay, this is getting interesting. And then I said, if the 75 each bring 2, that puts 150. And that is the number for that. And you add it up and it gets here. Now, did you notice any of these numbers? What did you notice about these numbers? Are they big numbers? Are any of these numbers big numbers? 5 agents every year for 5 years? Is that a big number? Okay. Is every agent bringing just 3 agents? I'm not saying 5 agents every year for 5 years. I'm just saying 3 total in time. And I'm saying 2 total in time because I like to live in this place called reality. Okay. I just do. I'm not like, at the time, little baby agent Amy over here who had a 1-year-old baby and was working part-time hours and whatever. I wasn't expecting myself to do much more than this. I was going to be like over the moon excited if I hit these numbers. And then here's the other thing that I did. I said, okay, that would bring in $610,000 annually. And I said, okay, but this is assuming, these numbers are assuming like a fully capping producing agent. Raise your hand if every agent at your brokerage is fully capping and producing. Okay, no one's hand is up. I can't even see you all, but if your hand is up, you are lying. Because we just know that 50% of agents don't produce. So you want to know what I did is I cut this number in half and I said, okay, I'm going to actually assume that it will end up being 305,000. But if you had a residual income of 305,000, would that change your life? Raise your hand if that would change your life. Wait, hold it up so I can see it. Okay, so that was the idea. I thought, oh, if I could create $300,000 annually, what does that get me? This. That gets me this, right? Okay, my oldest, when I started thinking about this, was 10 years old. When I started like really knowing that real estate was going to be the vehicle, because I thought about a lot of options. It wasn't like eXp was the first option I thought about. I thought about buying investment properties. I thought about Airbnbs. I thought about a million other options. Okay, this was a process. I'm just giving you the Reader's Digest version. But when I landed on that, I thought, okay, that gets me this, and I can do it in 5 years. And that's what I wanted. So this doesn't include transactions. This doesn't include anything else. There's other wheels to this wheelhouse. I hit 3 years last month, and here are my current numbers. Level 1 agents. Remember what my 5-year goal was? 25. I'm at 113. Level 2 agents. Remember what the goal was? 75. I'm at 103. Level 3 agents, 23. These numbers, and it's not just these numbers, it's the fact that, remember how I said back here that half of these people weren't going to be producing agents? And so I cut this number in half. Fun fact about the female solo agent. She produces. She produces. So I said 50%, she actually produces more at like 85%. So these numbers actually don't even need to be that big for me to hit this 5-year goal. Does that make sense? Because she produces at such a high rate. You know that. You know that about yourself. You just quietly go about doing your work, right? Because it changes your family's life. These numbers place me in the top 20 of all agents at eXp Realty of what is there, over 85,000, I would guess right now. I don't keep track of all that stuff because I'm busy doing this. I'm working part-time hours and I'm taking a month off. So let's talk about taking a month off. What does that actually mean? In order to take a month off, I knew I'd need multiple revenue streams that would run all the time, which means like making money while I sleep. I knew for sure I was going to need at least one of those revenue streams in order to take a month off. That was going to be my safety net, right? So rev share is that for me. Now you could do that with investment properties. You could do that with a local team. Rev share, I call Powerhouse my national team because we kind of operate like a team. Now there are seasons of growth, which require more of my time, and there are seasons of rest where I just maintain it, which requires about 3 hours of time a week. When I am maintaining Powerhouse, it takes me between 3 and 4 hours a week to maintain it. That's hosting these meetings, that's onboarding agents, that's answering questions, that's being inside, like all the different things. So when I take that month off, I just allow myself to a season of rest inside that revenue stream. You don't always have to be growing. That would be like you birthing a child every single year. That is not realistic. Please don't put that pressure on yourself. Now, when it comes to transactions, we've hardly even talked about transactions because I don't know, transactions are always just there. So in order to maintain transactions, instead of creating a big mega team, I've created a micro team where I'm able to put transactions on splits with another local agent. I prospect deals, she services deals. She likes to service deals. She's good at servicing deals. I'm good at prospecting deals. So guess what? That works well together. Just like social media and eXp, they work well together. Find things that work well together that will allow you to create leverage inside of your business. Because she's good at servicing deals, I never have to tap the brake on prospecting deals. How many of you prospect a lot of deals and then you get doing transactions and you're like, I got to stop prospecting because I'm so busy servicing all the transactions? Raise your hand if that's what happens. So then what happens is your months go like this, right? So if you're in that right now, you need to find someone that's good at servicing deals so that you can keep prospecting and they can keep servicing, okay? This micro team allows me to run all transactions from afar. I can show houses, I can search the MLS, I can talk with a lender, I've got a computer, I've got a phone, the internet works, right? And everyone's actually quite comfortable with it at this point. But that person is key for me in order to do that. Also, if I'm being really honest, I am to the point where I know how important this is. Like, this is the big investment I'm making. Right here, I know how important this is, that even if I did not have this micro team, I would not hesitate to refer out transactions for a month on a 25 or 30% split. I would make that trade-off all day long. But again, that's personal. I have noticed an evolution of success in doing this. First, you are a dreamer. This kind of goes back to talkers, takers, creators. It's very similar. First, you're a dreamer. You're inspired by another creator. You see the pattern of business. You consider using it to transform your business. You start dreaming like, well, could I take a month off? Could I build a business that allows me to do that? Could I live a life that I enjoy and run a business I enjoy? Then you become a reporter. You start using this pattern that you've seen by this creator over here. And you kind of start to document it. You start to talk about it, right? You start sharing your transformation story to inspire others, right? You become a teacher. And then this is just a pattern. Business is just a pattern. You become a creator. You create new patterns inside your business. You share them and inspire other dreamers to get similar results. Creator. This back here, where was it? This was where I became a creator. People told me this was not going to work. People told me this was not going to work. And people told me this was not going to work. I knew otherwise because I had the skill sets that I saw the pattern differently. So I took the opportunity, then I started to begin creating new opportunities. And then you become a servant guide and your focus shifts from personal growth to contribution. Because only in teaching others, you find a new level of growth in yourself. And this one is really, really fun. Going from a creator, this is like when you've created a new revenue stream, or you've created a new process, you've created a new system, you've created something that works. And then when you get to share it with others, what happens in the process of sharing with others, when you deconstruct your process, you end up seeing it in a new light, and you see the holes in it, or you see where it can be improved. And so then you get to go back to being a creator. And so this one starts to go like this, and it's like circular, right? And it keeps building and iterating on top of each other. And that's the part that is really, really fun. I still go back to this though. This was my why. This was my why. It's been a lot, like it's been a lot of crying in my closet. It's been a lot of sleepless nights. It's been some of the highest highs, some of the lowest lows. The highest highs have far outweighed the lowest lows though by a mile. My kids have shown up in ways that I did not anticipate. I never wanted them to have to accommodate me. And I've actually found that they want to accommodate me, and they are a part of this. And it's been really, really fun process to like build this together as a family. And whatever your dream is, even if you don't know what your dream is, like schedule in time to like daydream on your dream and find that dream that you want that feels right. I told you this, it took me a minute to land on Bear Lake, and like my parents ended up building the house. I didn't have to end up going and buying the house. Like that was not even on the table at the time. And all of a sudden, like once I locked in on that and I started building on that, everything started like coming in, and I just had to keep taking steps in the dark and saying, no, I think this will work. And truly one of the biggest things was Powerhouse and eXp. It's literally changed my entire business. It's changed my entire growth trajectory in my business. The opportunity doesn't exist elsewhere. I want to open it up for Q&A. If you want to learn more about Powerhouse, I want you, oops, am I still sharing my screen? I don't even know. No. If you want to learn more about Powerhouse, I can drop you a link. Where did I put? Welcome to my world where I have 50 billion tabs open. If you want to learn more about Powerhouse, eXp, there is the link inside the chat to learn more. Some of the greatest people I've ever met are inside of Powerhouse. And it's like, I would just say it's like magic. I don't know how that happened, but it's happened. And I've learned more from them than I could ever teach them. If you want to learn more about it, reach out to the person that invited you today. And then I want to open it up to Q&A. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We have a few minutes. I always like to leave a few minutes for Q&A. Do you want to who wants to take a month off? Is that something that you want in your business? Like right by show of hands? Feel free to unmute. Okay, so what would you have to change in your business? Feel free to turn your your cameras on. What would you have to change in your business to like take a month off? Do you believe that you could take a month off? Raise your hand if you think you could actually do that. Okay, Kate says she thinks so, Amber. Okay, Amber, what would you have to do in your business? Like, let's reverse engineer how to do it. There's a lot of ways you can do it. I'm not saying you have to do it this way, right? Like, it's like saying there's one way to raise your kids successfully. That's not true. So Amber, what would you have to do inside your business in order to take a month off? Let's start with transactions, because everyone has transactions. First you have to figure out a way, right? You'd have to figure out a way to have your transactions taken care of. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know I need to have I probably need to have a buyer's agent that's in my local market.
Okay.
So
would that be step one?
Yeah,
Okay. Is that something you can like step one? Can you do step one in the next 4 months?
hopefully the next 4 days.
Okay. Way to go, Amber. Well, I like that. Okay. So now we're moving on
I
to
already
step
need to do it.
So
I'm like
you-
writing out my checklist.
okay. So you already have step one kind of figured out. Here's the other thing. Things are going to go wrong, just so you know. It's just the nature of it. Things are going to go wrong. So don't worry too much about that. So what would step two then be, Amber? So if transactions are taken care of, do you need an additional revenue stream?
Yeah, I need to spend more time actually partnering with agents to have the conversation, breaking down their business and how they can do what I did, like increase my volume, but have less transactions.
Yeah. I mean, you are running towards burnout. Were you already at burnout in hindsight? Or do you think you were just,
I was right past it. I was ready to quit.
yeah, hazard of the industry. Okay, so the next thing is you said I need to have like more conversations with agents, right? Because once you manage transactions, then what's the next step to building your business? You either have to get in like the investment business or you've got to get in the agent business. Is there another one I'm missing? I think those are the two most viable options. Right? Like you could have an investment arm that brings in, what do you need to bring? I mean, to brings in.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead, Amber.
oh, I thought you had asked a question.
What are the, I mean, you either have to get in the agent business or you have to get in the investment business, right? Is there another option that someone's doing that I'm unaware of? Tell me so I can just copy you and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Would we all agree? Okay, so so then the next step, Amber, so Amber's saying, well, the next step is Amber wants to get into more of the agent business. That would be a local team, a brokerage, or you could use eXp's model to do a national team. Okay, so then she said, I need to have more conversations with agents. Okay, so how are you going to do that? That's like the next question.
Well, right now it's doing what I'm already doing, but doing it more. Like actually scheduling out. Like I loved how you mapped out, if I have this many conversations, then I'll have this many agents that make a move. But the reason, I think it's important to say like the reason why, like if we don't have a value to add, then we're not going to be profitable of it. You know, like eXp for me has been that value prop. So I think obviously the same for you. So it's not just to make money, right? It's to add value to them. And then in result of adding value to them, the money comes.
Well, isn't that the same with transactions? Right? It's about adding value to your clients, right? And as you continue to add more value, you have more transactions, more money comes in, like, right? The more you help other people, the more you get where you want to go. That's just a principle of life and business. 100%. Okay. Kim says, I take every August off for the past 4 years. Yeah, Kim is good at this too. She doesn't take anyone's BS. I like it. Okay, Katie's question, how does rev share work when you start doing less transactions? So with rev share, what happens is every agent at eXp is on an 80-20 split, right? A $16,000 cap. Okay, so that means you've got to know the math of your business in order to do something like this. Like you better know the numbers. Okay, so if agents have to pay in a $16,000 cap, and then they go on to 100%, like a flat fee, which is a $250 flat fee. That means once they've closed $2.7 million in production, they've paid in their full cap. So then you have to go and say, hang on, I'm going to take you back. Where did I put that? Hang on, I'm going to share my screen so you can see the numbers in front of you again. So it's easier. Come on. Okay. So if I go back to here, so if you take all these numbers and add them up, it adds up to $16,000. So you need to know it's eXp that is paying me. It's not any Powerhouse agent paying me, right? It's eXp that's paying me. And so you have to say, okay, well, why is eXp doing that? Well, because I'm helping them build their business, right? I've brought them how many agents? 113 agents. By the way, just so we're aware, this meant I've gone back and looked at the numbers. I've talked to over 600 agents. 600 agents. Okay. Someone do the math on that and tell me my conversion rate. It's about a 16% conversion rate. It's actually not bad. Okay. My conversion, but it's gotten better. At first, my conversion rate was lousy, which is true in transactions too. Like the first time you go to a listing appointment, do you get the listing appointment? Probably not, right? But you've got to keep taking your swings. Anyways, so I'm not actually doing less in transactions. I'm doing more in transactions. I'm just splitting them with another agent. But if you take these and add them up, I think it adds up to about 16,000 because eXp pays agents out on that 16,000. So realistically, you just need agents that are closing 2.7 million in production, which I don't care where you live. Like every agent is capable of doing that wherever you're at. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question, Katie? Feel free to.
I guess I was wondering if there was a minimum on your part as far as like when you do start doing less transactions for yourself, does eXp require you to still hit that cap every year? I mean, not that that's hard to do. Or is there, yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any, how do you maintain that long-term basically?
Great question. There is like, if I were to like stop doing transactions altogether, then I do have to pay in a fee to access my rev share. And I want to say it's $2,500.
That's nothing though.
But yeah, again, right, and that's because eXp is a business, right? So it has to make money, it has, right? And I would totally do that all day long if I wanted to stop doing transactions at some point. That would still make sense to me. But ultimately with social media, it's not just transactions in my local market. Now I've got transactions coming in from all over the place. Because what's stopping me from helping someone in Dallas move to Orlando and connecting them with an agent in both places?
So are they, sorry to jump back in. So are they counting if you refer out a business, they're still counting that as part of your production?
Yeah, because I pay a split on that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that counts as my production. Okay, let me go to the next question. My question, as an older agent, I have rentals and revenue and love vacations. This year I'm taking 5 weeks off this summer, but for some of my current listing sellers, I almost feel like a teenager sneaking out of the house. I have my daughter who's also an agent watching my business while I'm gone, but still feel guilty leaving them. How do you leave without the guilt? Oh, I mean, I love my clients, but I do not love them more than my family. And listen, my dentist is not available all the time, and neither is the neurosurgeon that's highly specialized. The fact that I'm able to do it in less time and more efficient isn't because I'm lazy, it's because I'm smart, right? And if you're working with the correct clientele, which you want to work with a luxury level clientele, because guess what? They hire out things. They value their time more than they value their money. Because their time is their money, right? So my dad's an attorney. He owns his own firm. He's not acting like he's going to fix the leaky sink. Could he figure that out? Sure. Is that where his time is best spent? No. His hourly rate is X, and he's better off going to the office and making that hourly rate and paying the plumber, right? Your clients who have a high hourly rate are happy to pay you because, one, they value their assets. They're going to protect and maintain their assets, and they are going to hire the professional. Does that make sense? So I don't feel guilty about it. And I have a safety net to take care of them. I have agents here. I have boots on the ground. It's not like when I go to check in at the neurosurgeon that I expect the neurosurgeon to actually check me into my appointment. No, that's bad business, right? And if you have a high level clientele, they appreciate that you run a good business. So I tell them, oh, that's automated. Because it's a business. Does that make sense? Also, you train your clientele to know that you're available during business hours. Like, is your neurosurgeon available at 9 p.m.? Now, there are situations where clearly you need to be available, right? But if you have a smart clientele, they also realize when that situation is and is not. What did you mean on your slide when you said that you had the single solo? Oh, she just outperforms all agents. When you look at the eXp model, let's say I went and like brought over a bunch of teams and I said, okay, I'm going to bring over, let's say Amber. I'm going to use Amber as an example because she's sitting, it's a hazard of like your little picture being next to mine during the Zoom meeting. I pick on you. So let's say Amber has 10 agents on her team. I don't bring over a bunch of big teams because I don't run a local team. But let's say Amber has 10 agents on her local team and Amber feeds them all of their transactions and all of their listings and all of their leads and all of the things. And they're just little baby birds picking up those listings and they go and do the work, right? Well, on Amber's team, they're going to be on a half cap at eXp. So they're only going to pay in $8,000, which means all those numbers get cut in half, right, on the rev share. And then also those agents aren't going to build. Those agents aren't going to build. They're not going to even go get their own transactions. They're not going to build out like agent growth. They're not necessarily going to buy investment properties. It's like two different personality types, right? And so a female solo agent, she tends to build a community-based referral-driven business. Which really works well when you get into the agent business as well. It works really well in the transaction arm of your business, but it works even better in the agent growth arm of your business because her number one issue is loneliness. If you're a female solo agent and you're not at eXp or you're not like with Powerhouse, you gotta take your cameras off or like raise your hands, like put it on the thing where you raise your hand. Raise your hand if your biggest pain point is loneliness, like not knowing how to build your business, not having a board of directors, not having anyone to ask, hey, what are you doing for this? Hey, what's that mailer look like? Hey, what are you doing for your community events? Hey, do you have a title company that you work with? Hey, do you have a good lender that you work with? Hey, how are you taking your listing to market? Right? Like no one in your brokerage is sharing that information with you, nor should they. Like in your local brokerage, no one's sharing that with you because you're their competition. Yeah, you might be with the same firm, but like you're in the same local market and you're competition with each other, right? And so a female solo agent, they would rather collaborate than compete. And so how it works inside of Powerhouse is like Amber runs her own business. Like eXp pays me $2,800 every year for Amber's work. Of saying like, okay, great, Amber cap, because Amber caps every single year. But then it unlocks this collaborative behavior where it's like, well, Amber's got this great transaction tracker. And so she shares that inside of Powerhouse. And we're like, oh, cool, let's all use this, right? And we all learn from it. And so the female solo agent, she wants to run her own business. She doesn't want to be on a team and have splits with like a team lead, but she does want to collaborate and brain share and share ideas. And, Amber will take something from Jessica and iterate on that and do it her own way, but like you kind of spur ideas from each other. Okay, did that answer your question, Paige?
Thank you.
Any other questions I can help you with today? Okay, thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to share the link with you. eXp might not be a good fit for you, and that's great. It's not a good fit for everyone. But I would love, if eXp is not a good fit for you, I can't encourage you enough to get yourself to Rise Retreat. Rise Retreat will give you the relationships and the knowledge and the learning and the tools. It's open to all brokerages. It's not an eXp event. We don't talk about eXp on the stage. But it will allow you to have relationships with agents across the country, which I can tell you will be pivotal in changing your business. If you're wanting to buy investment properties, you need to know agents in Georgia and Louisville and all these places where you can buy investment properties at a reasonable price, right? You need to know the agents. There's two of those agents inside of Powerhouse that they're buying investment properties for a ton of other Powerhouse agents in other markets, right? Because that market is financially makes sense and they have the wherewithal to do it. So if you're not going to be at eXp or inside of Powerhouse, get yourself to Rise Retreat so that you can at least have the relationships with other agents, that when you do have a question of like, hey, how are you taking this to market? Or do you have a lender? You need to have deep pockets of relationships. It will change the trajectory of your business. Thank you so much for being here. I will leave those links right there for you. Hurry and click on them before I end the meeting, because then they will go away. So just open them both in your browser. I will wait for you. Copy and paste them to the notes in your phone if you need to, or get them open in your browser, so that you can go through them when you have a minute. But thank you so much for being here. And I mean, I'll see you guys in a month or something. I don't know. I can't decide if I'm taking off social media or not, but you'll probably see me way less on social media, because I think it's good to like have a season of rest. So you'll probably see me less and less over the next month. But thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
See you guys.